Hello everyone, it's Marie from Skeletorama again. Welcome back to my channel. Give it a house shift. How's everyone? So doing good. This is part 3 and the final part of the table for the Mad Hatter's Tea Party, which is turning out awesome, I think. I'm really enjoying that. So we are going to do the accent cloths that go on the top and get everything finished up. So by the end of this one we should have a nice finished table. So hope you enjoy. Alright, so now that we have the main tablecloth done and it's on there and it's ready to go, we need to do our accent tablecloths, which is what we did all that ridiculous crazy math for, if you were brave enough to sit through that. So that one I have on my sheet here. It's 10.6 to get that 15, and then plus with the seam allowance makes it 11.6 centimeters. Again, I'm going to use my quilting ruler, and so that one is only in inches, so I converted it. It's about 4 5/8 inches. Okay, so what we're going to do here is we're going to start with this one. Why are we going to start with this one? Because this one has stripes, so it's going to be kind of a pain. And let's see, since this is going to be like this, we're going to cut a smaller piece just to make life easier. And you know what, I don't want to take that one because that's got a weird cut in it too, so we'll just cut this smaller here. Believe me, I will use the scraps. No problem there. Alright, and this will probably need to be ironed, but I am going to be using that little iron at some point, so it's okay. Alright, so this has stripes. So the question becomes, on our table, once it's on here, how do we want the stripes? Do we want them to run the length of it? Do we want them to run like this? Do we want them to be kind of cat-a-corner? How do we want this exactly? So what I'm thinking is having them run down this way would probably be pretty good. You know what? Honestly, it probably doesn't even matter. Yeah. We'll let it surprise us. How's that? Because I kind of want to use the stripes to line it up, and if I have them going this way, that defeats the purpose of that. So again, I have a selvage end, so see how it's got a slightly different color. This is, as I drop it, this is because this was the side, so when they wove the fabric, you have 2 selvage ends on either side of it. That's one of them, and the nice thing with selvage end is it's always straight, and providing it doesn't have like that weird branding strip type thing running down it, it's really useful to use for one of your straight edges. So that's what we're going to do. So we're going to take our quilting ruler, and I'm going to aim for like the center of this. So it was what, 4 5/8. So I'm going to use each straight side to help me build my square and to keep it square. So I'm going to line this ruler up exactly with this, and this first cut doesn't matter because I'm not, you know, I have to cut it anyway. I don't need to really measure it, so I'm going to do that. And you can cut on a glass mat. I generally don't because I'm always afraid it's going to hurt it. But so now with this, we're going to have to start measuring. So we're going to do like we normally do. I'm going to take my ruler and put it flat here against the edge. And I'm going to use pencil. And so 4 5/8, this is divided into 8, so I can actually find that. So there's 1, 2, and 3 marks just to make it easy. And then when I'm doing this, I'm going to line it up on my marks, but I'm also going to make sure to line this up flush with the top. Alright, so there's, I don't need to mark that, I need to cut that. Duh. Okay. So there we go. And then same here. Just gonna bring this down, pencil, line this up. So 4 5/8. So I'm just going to do 2 because I can use that other edge to help make sure it's straight. 4 5/8. And we're going to line this up here. And this is also a good opportunity while we've got this at the top to make sure that this is measuring 4 5/8. And it is. And is this line lining up on a line? It is. So now we just will cut this twice apparently. There we go. It cuts better on the mat than it does on the glass. Seriously. Salvage edge. Okay. So there we have it. Here is our square tablecloth part. So we're going to bring this back out and make sure, is this the size that we want to have it drape over? And I think it is. We're going to be losing a little bit, remember, for the little seam allowances. Okay, but we can actually go smaller on the seam allowances for this if we want. All right, so we'll take our regular one and make sure. So this should be, it's going to be a little more than 15 just because of the seam allowances. Yes, see, so it comes to 16.5 centimeters across. So again, I could just cut a square and go with it, and that's fine, you can do that, but in order to get the length that I want, you know, you'd have to cut a square and then trim it down and trim it down and trim it down. It's easier to just do math at the beginning of it. So let me get my little iron plugged in. I am going to bring my mat back out just because you know, again, it's tempered glass, it's heat proof, you know, it's whatever, but I just don't feel comfortable applying direct heat to glass. I'm kind of weird like that. So we're going to give this a few minutes to heat up, and then we'll kind of press that flat, and then we'll press our little seam allowances in. I think with this, we'll probably use the 1/8 inch score tape for it, and then just do a little seam around it. Yeah, this is nice and warmed up. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to try to iron this crease out. I mean, I tried to aim it so that the crease that was there was, you know, not too bad. It's not a sharp crease or anything, but it's just enough to stick up and bug me. Alright, so we're going to do the same thing we did on the previous ones. I'm going to fold this up. I'm going to do it just the tiniest bit though. I'll fold that up, kind of finger pin it, and press it down. Voila, there we go. We've got these done here, and we're going to do the same kind of thing as we did before, where we're going to clip our corners too. So I'm going to take my score tape. I'm going to leave this on because I'm also going to do a thing I totally forgot when we did the other one, was a tip that Ara had shared about heat setting your glue with it as well. We're going to do that, so we're just going to put a little bit on here. I'm going to go around all these edges, and then I'll clip my corners like I did on the other one. Okay, so I have attached the double-sided tape and clipped the corners and burnished it down. So now we're going to do like with the other ones, and we are going to take the tape off, and we're going to gently fold our edges over at first, gently, and then we'll press them down real good. But we just want them to be straight first. We don't want them to go wonky, you know, as we're putting them over there. Voila. And so now the extra step we're going to add is we're going to take this and we're just going to kind of iron over it and press real good. And that'll kind of help heat set that adhesive. It kind of probably melts it a little bit in there, you know, but should give us a little bit stronger of a bond. You can glue this with wet glue. You can sew this. You can do it however you want. I just figured I would go with the score tape because that way I don't have to worry about, you know, my edges and, you know, what are the stitches going to look like and whatnot. Is the stitching around the edges going to look in scale? Is it going to look off? So I can just do it like this. And then any little bits that are coming off the corners, I'm going to trim that. So there's that part there. We'll bring our table back in. And so we've got our first accent one. Okay, so now we get to go, okay, is this big enough? Do I maybe want this to be larger so it'll go here and drape down more? Maybe I want this to come down like so on the front. You know, is that enough? So we can kind of play around with this and see. Oh, if I wanted it like that, I would have to do some more math, but I might, because I think that would look a little bit better. Maybe not quite that far. That far? And that way it could go hang over this side too. Or no, you know, I think this might be good enough. Because we're going to have several of them, and we don't want everything to compete with everything else. So I think in the interim, what I'm going to do is, I have the other fabrics. I have these two here. So I'm going to make these from these two off camera. But before I make this one, we're going to play around with the other three, basically decide which ones do we want, etc. And then maybe this one is going to be a different size. Maybe it will be the one that hangs down in the center or is more of a diamond shape. We'll get to that. But in the interim, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go off camera and I'm going to make those other two exactly the same way I did this. And that way we can see how we want to do it. So I have done the other tablecloths. I'll be bringing them back in, but as you remember, we finished this one here. So it's going to go on like so. So what I did as well when I was making them is I took the next fabric and I went ahead and made a larger one, right? So I thought, okay, what if I want this to really hang over like this, right? How big would it have to be? So I did that just to kind of see maybe if we want to do the heart one larger, or if I maybe wanted to do these larger so that they would hang over this way. I decided against that pretty quick because to get them to hang over like so, we're really not going to see this tablecloth, and I like this tablecloth underneath it. So I ruled that one out pretty quick, at least for the other ones. It still is a contender for the center one. So put this here, and so we've got these two now. So we have this one and this one and this one. So this is actually how they will go if we do them all this size. They can either stick off this end a little bit too, which might be good for sort of continuity sake, or not, you know, whichever. So there's that. Now if I were to bring in, and I can just put this on top here real quick. Let's put this like this so you can see the contrast after we line them up. If I put this in the center, it's kind of awkward, right? It looks too big. I mean, yeah, it looks cool on the front with the two small triangles and the big one, but again, you're losing so much of this, and I really like this underneath it. So we've got these three. It still remains to be seen which two we're going to use with the heart one, but now we know that the one from this fabric, we're going to do the same size as those. Or maybe I'll do like an intermediary size. What I figured out, and yes, I use the same math for it, for that large one to be 25 centimeters from corner to corner. And that, you know, again, as silly as it seemed to bust out the Pythagorean theorem for that, it's very useful, because if I want to figure out this thing, it's like, oh, I want this to drape a little farther. Well, how far down do I want it to drape? This far. Well, again, I'm needing this measurement. These measurements are not coming into play with this as much as this, you know, corner to corner one. So that's what I did with it. And so I did that for 25 centimeters across, and that would give, you know, a table, and then, you know, however many centimeters on the other side. That may have been a little too big, so I'm going to go ahead and, again, off camera, because you've already seen me do this, and this video stuff's gone on long enough. I've done it for 20, and that'll give me 5 centimeters hanging off each side, but it shouldn't like eat the whole table, right? So I'm going to make one of them at, it's going to be 15.2 centimeters, which is, let's find out. So if we hold this up here, 15.2 centimeters, roughly 6 inches square. And I'll do another one at the normal, where it is the 4 5/8 inch square, which is the original one we figured out. And then we'll test both of them, you know, because again, I'll find a use for these. It's not a problem. And then between my granddaughter and a couple friends' daughters, you know, I have homes for all my extra stuff too. So when I make like 50 million cookies, you know, I only need 12. I have somewhere that those ones are going. So that helps. So I'm not worried about making extra. I'm sure they would love that. So I'll do that, and I will come back to you, and then we will make our final decisions and then decide how we want to secure these down. So be right back. All right. So I have brought in, I've got the 2 different sizes of the heart one. So we are going to start with, I know I like this one, and let's go ahead and put it kind of over to the edge just for a second. And this is the most likely candidate for it, but we'll see. And then when we put this in the center, that looks pretty cool. Alright, you can kind of see where this is going. This looks better, it does. Okay, so we have the 2 short ones and then the long one in the center like this. So I do like that. Question is, do I like this or this? Ooh, that's a little bit trickier. I'm kind of actually leaning to that one. But, oh, that's the hard part, you know? Yeah, I do kind of overall, even though it's busier, I do kind of like this one. And again, this table is going to be just filled with stuff anyway. So, looks like the winners are the larger of the 2 with the hearts and this green one right here, which is fine. So how are we going to put these down? Because obviously, if these were on a real table at this scale, they wouldn't stick out like this. But since they are not at this real scale, they do. So we have a couple options. We can kind of tack it down. And that's what we may do, because that's just the easier of the options. So we can use some glue or some double-sided tape or something, and we can tack these down like so on here, because it's just these ends that need it. And then on this one, we can sort of tack it here and along these edges, and that should hold everything down and in place the way we want it. So let's see. First of all, we want to make sure these are centered. So let's bring this one here. Let's start with this. That looks pretty centered. And then we want this point going to the center as well. So we hang just a little bit below there, just a little bit below there. So that one is good. Now, I don't know if you can hear that. We were having a bit of a thunderstorm, which I love, love, love thunderstorms. We don't have nearly enough here for my liking, but that's okay. I don't think anywhere does. Darwin, Australia, I think, is the place that has, like the city that has the most lightning strikes to it. There's a couple places in, I believe it's Africa, where they have just a constant thunderstorm all the time, which would be great, except bugs. So, yeah, no, no bugs. Okay, so I think what we will do is, yeah, I think we'll do the double-sided tape on this. Well, I'm not confident enough that I can put the Fabri-Tac on here and not have it seep through, because the Fabri-Tac would be the best. Well, you know, let's be brave. Let's be brave. Let's have some confidence in our gluing abilities. One of the ways to avoid the Fabri-Tac from doing the seeping through thing is, you know, when you put it on here, and I'm just going to use just a little bit. You put it on, and then you kind of let it sit for a second. Don't push it right away. Let it start to kind of dry for a second, and then press it down. I think that's going to give us the best hold overall, is the Fabri-Tac. So we'll bring this around. We're going to do the same to this side. Just kind of fold it up so we know where we're going. And I'm just doing a line, a nice light line, just right here across this part. So that way the point, we want that to hang down naturally. We want everything to hang down as naturally as we can, but we want it to hang down, you know, not out. So, okay, there's a little bit more. At this stage, we really don't want to get extra glue on things, so I'm being super careful with it. So give that a second to kind of sit on there, and then just very gently push on that. And this particular fabric, the way it's got that mottled kind of coloring underneath it, if I do get some, it'll probably hide it pretty well for me. So I am going to tack this down here. And this, I'll just concentrate it on the parts where it's doubled over and has the tape in the middle of it, because, yeah, that's not going to soak through. But this will hold it down for me. All right, and then we will do this end here, same thing. Pull that up. Should probably say, yeah, only commit like this once you're sure this is the one that you want on there, obviously. I'm going to make myself move on, because if I don't, we'll be here for the rest of eternity while I dither back and forth between things, and then come across something else in my fabric stash, you know, that would have been better. Yeah, is what it is. Okay, so there's that one there. We're going to come around and swap it with this side here, and we're going to do the same thing over here. So we want to make sure that these are even. I want about the same amount hanging over on each one. Let's go this way with it. Yeah, it looks a little bit better. Okay, so I've got a tiny bit of overhang past the, come on, really? Past that, tiny bit of overhang past that. And I could stand to move just a little bit this way. And a tiny bit there. Okay, and this is pointing towards the other one. It's in line with the other one, so they're going to look pretty even. Give or take, you know, any of my miscalculations when I was doing the hemming kind of thing, basically, and, you know, making one slightly a different size than the other. But that's okay. Again, this is supposed to look random. It's supposed to look nice and elegant, but random. So yeah, I think I'm definitely going to do a little bit of a dot on the pointy ends here. Kind of lay that over. Just we'll do it on here. We'll do two little dots here. This way they're on the double folded part, so it's less likely to seep through. You just got to keep me from getting glue on all the things. And then I'm also going to do these little corners down too, just so they're kind of hanging more naturally as well. see it does this volcano thing. You'll see it kind of pushing out on its own because it's gotten a little too thick, so the fumes from it evaporating are pushing it out. If it does this, this means you need to thin it down a little bit with some acetone. And it'll stop doing that for a minute until it gets a little too thick again, then it'll, you know, vicious cycle. But all right, and I will flip this over here. I'll catch these other ends, and I'm guessing you guys can hear that because that's pretty loud. Love it. Oh, it just makes me want to go take a nap. And yes, as long as it's not, you know, insanely crazy, I do enjoy hurricane season as well. I have issues. And one more over here. And then we'll do the ends as well. I don't know how well you'll be able to see that because that kind of puts it up in here a bit odd, but or you're getting an extreme close-up because my stupid mirroring software has crapped out again. I hate it so much. But, you know, it's the only one I got that works consistently-ish. Ooh, that was a loud one. I kind of need it to see. All right. And a little more over here. And one more over here. Come on. Oh, you had all the glue coming out in the world a second ago. Okay. Just kind of hold these down just a little bit. They'll grab kind of on their own. And I'm going to do the same to this end here. Again, hopefully you're able to see this. Oh, nice one. Okay. There we go. And then we got one more. And then I do believe our little table is done. As soon as I get that glue string off of there. Okay. Nope, not quite. Jumped the gun. Totally jumped the gun. Yeah, kind of need the center one. Duh. All right. So now that we have these down and then our corners and everything are laying like they would if you had a normal weight of tablecloth hanging off of it. Now we're going to put the center one in here. And so we're going to make sure that our points are pointing, relatively evenly. We're leaving a fairly even amount of space here. I know I didn't quite do that here. I'm sure that'll bother me soon enough. No worries, but we'll do this one like so. So we've got about that much coming off there. We can go maybe a tiny, tiny bit over this way. So about that much there. We can measure it. Let's measure it. Shall we? This is like the centerpiece of it. Let's measure this. All right, so we are extending about 2.5 centimeters below our main tablecloth on that one, and then a little bit more. So we'll pull it so it's 1 centimeter. Boop. Let's see if that worked. See if that did anything. All right. There, and yeah, perfect. Okay, so now we're going to do the same sort of thing. I'm going to go on here, flip this up. I'm going to be super duper careful on this one, mainly because, obviously we really don't want it to have the glue seeping through on this particular fabric, because this is our main focal fabric of the whole table. Going across. Give it just a second. You don't want to let it set up too much because then it'll start to dry and it won't stick. And then very, very gently. If you press really hard, you will press it right through the fibers of your material. So if you do it super, super gentle, there are ways to use Fabri-Tac on fabric and not have it come through. And that's one of the ways you do it. So folding this up, doing a nice light line of the glue. Come on. And I'm not pressing it down onto the thing either. I'm just letting it kind of sit there. Okay, that was like right outside the window, that one. I saw that one. There was no time wasted. But the key here is if you don't want it to soak through the fabric, let it kind of start to set up first, and it'll help you. It makes it a lot thicker. And then very gently press it down. Okay, see? And it's not seeping through at all. The key is gentle, gentle. And then once it's, you give it a few minutes and it's almost dry, then you can press down a little bit harder if you want to make sure it's in place. And so these, we're going to give ourselves the same advantage, and we are going to put it on the double thickness, because to seep through here, it would have to get through both layers and the score tape that's between them. Okay, that has more of a chance of coming out the sides than it does there. And glue volcano, okay, same over here. And then just like those, that one's sticking up a little bit too much, so we'll do the same thing here. We'll just hit this little bit here, oops, and this little bit here. So now with that, I recognize that as even still, that will seep through because it'll squish over that other part. So remove a little bit of that. Get the glue string. And then clean that first, since it's being difficult. And same on this side. Okay, and so there we have it. All right, so we have everything glued down, and look at that. It looks like a table. Isn't that neat? And you can just barely see the feet poking out. So that is going to look really cool, I think, on there. And then, of course, we'll have all kinds of stuff on there, too. So, yeah, that's where we're ending with our table. So just remember, you can make the same style of this. You can have it go all the way down if you want. You can do all this stuff a bunch of different ways, but you don't need a pattern. You don't need, somebody to give you the measurements. You can figure out your measurements yourself. So that always makes things easier. The more you're tied to, somebody else's measurements and patterns, the less that you can do for yourself, I guess, So anyway, so that's where we're going to leave it. So the next time we come back to the project, we are going to start working on the base. So I have some stuff for that. I showed you all the little grass in the last one. I got like some ground cover stuff here. This is gray. I'm not sure how well that's going to work, but we'll find out, won't we? Got some green and some other green business. Whee. So what we'll do is we will start landscaping the bottom of it. The foam board that I used to pin the ruffles down to when it dried is the one that we're going to use to make the cobblestone path, because I'm going to have to distress it anyway. So that way I can not have to touch any of the other foam sheets and put stuff in them. So anyways, that's what we will do. And so I will see you in that next one. Hej med reschiff. Bye.